The hangar bay of Julius 9's orbital station buzzed with activity as crews made final preparations for the assault on Centauri Prime. Hack's paws flew over the Broken Promise's navigation console, running last-minute system checks. Despite the confidence he'd gained over their recent missions, he couldn't shake a feeling of unease about this operation. Killian's gruff voice cut through the pre-flight chatter. "I still say this is a mistake. Centauri Prime? We might as well be knocking on the Empire's front door." Jeb looked up from his own preparations, his face set in determination. "We've been over this, Killian. Centauri Prime is a key strategic target. Taking it will cripple the Empire's shipbuilding capabilities and give us a foothold in their core systems." "Aye, and it'll get a lot of good people killed in the process," Killian muttered, checking his weapons systems with more force than necessary. "We should be hitting softer targets, wearing them down before we go for the jugular." Hack's whiskers twitched nervously as he listened to the exchange. Part of him agreed with Killian. Centauri Prime's defenses were legendary, but he also understood the strategic importance of the target. "All ships, report to final briefing." Grand Admiral Decker's voice came over the comms, cutting short any further debate. As they gathered in the briefing room, Hack couldn't help but notice the tension on the faces of the other racing crews. They'd all heard the stories about Centauri Prime. Decker's hologram flickered to life at the center of the room. "This will be our most challenging operation to date," he began without preamble. "Centauri Prime is heavily defended, but it's also vital to the Empire's war machine. Taking it will change the course of this conflict." The Admiral detailed their approach, emphasizing the crucial role the racing ships would play in deploying shock troops and conducting precision bombing runs. "Your speed and maneuverability will be key to piercing their defenses," Decker explained. "But make no mistake, this will be unlike anything you've faced before. The skies over Centauri Prime will be a maelstrom of flak, fighters, and orbital defenses." As the briefing concluded, Hack felt a mix of determination and apprehension settling in his gut. This wasn't just another race or a hit-and-run raid. This was a full-scale invasion of one of the Empire's most fortified worlds. Back aboard the Broken Promise, Jeb gathered his crew for a final word. "I know you're all nervous. Hell, I am too. But remember, we've beaten impossible odds before. We're not just racers anymore. We're the tip of the spear in this war, and it's time to show the Empire what we're really made of." As the fleet prepared to jump, Hack's paws hovered over the navigation controls. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain: the crew of the Broken Promise would face it together. The stars outside the viewscreen blurred as they made the jump to Centauri Prime and to the greatest challenge of their lives. The Broken Promise dropped out of FTL on the outskirts of the Centauri system, immediately greeted by a dazzling array of weapon fire lighting up the void of space. Hack's paws danced across his console, feeding real-time navigational data to Jeb as they plunged into the fray. "Multiple contacts," Killian barked, his hands flying over the weapons systems. "Orbital defense platforms at 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Imperial fighters incoming." Jeb's voice was steady as he called out orders. "Evasive maneuvers, pattern Delta. Hacked, find us a path through this mess. We need to get our first wave of troops on the ground." Hack's eyes darted between his displays, calculating trajectories and safe corridors through the storm of flak and energy weapons. His racing instincts, honed by years of navigating deadly courses, now served a higher purpose. "Course plotted," Captain Hacked squeaked, his fur standing on end as a barrage of flak exploded dangerously close to their hull. "Sending coordinates now." The Broken Promise dove and weaved through the chaotic battlefield, its advanced engines and Jeb's expert piloting keeping them one step ahead of the Imperial defenses. Hack marveled at how their racing skills translated so perfectly to this theater of war. As they broke through the first layer of orbital defenses, the planet's surface came into view. Hack gasped at the sight of massive fortifications and anti-aircraft batteries dotting the landscape. "First drop zone approaching," Hack announced, his voice tight with concentration. "Heavy resistance expected." Jeb's hands tightened on the controls. "Killian, clear us a path. Shock troops, prepare for hot drop." The ship shuddered as Killian unleashed a barrage of weapons fire, temporarily suppressing the ground defenses around their target landing zone. Moments later, they touched down amidst a storm of return fire. "Go, go, go," Jeb shouted as the cargo bay doors opened, disgorging their complement of Julius 9 shock troops. No sooner had the last trooper departed than Hack was already plotting their exit vector. "Extraction point locked in, Captain. Multiple hostiles converging on our position." The broken Promise lifted off in a hail of weapons fire, its shields flaring as they absorbed the brunt of the assault. As they climbed back into the relative safety of low orbit, Hack allowed himself a moment of relief. "First drop successful," he reported, his whiskers still quivering from the adrenaline rush. "Good work," Jeb nodded, his eyes already scanning for their next objective. "But we're just getting started. Plot a course for Pickup Zone Alpha. We've got more troops to deploy and a lot more fight ahead of us." As Hack input the coordinates for their next run, he couldn't help but feel a mix of exhilaration and fear. They had made it through their first strike, but the battle for Centauri Prime was far from over. The skies above the planet were a chaos of explosions, energy weapons, and dueling spacecraft. And somewhere in that maelstrom, the crew of the Broken Promise would have to find a way to turn the tide of this crucial battle. As the Broken Promise completed its third troop deployment, a priority transmission came through from Fleet Command. Hack's ears perked up as he patched it through to the bridge. "Attention all racing crews," Admiral Decker's voice crackled over the comm. "We're initiating Operation Thunderstrike. Your ships are being reassigned to precision bombing runs. Prepare for new mission parameters." Jeb's eyebrows shot up. "Bombing runs? We're not exactly equipped for that, Admiral." "That's precisely why you're perfect for this," Captain Decker replied. "Your speed and maneuverability make you ideal for low-altitude strikes against hardened targets. We're uploading the mission data now." Hack's console lit up with new information. His eyes widened as he took in the details. "Captain, they want us to hit a series of shield generators protecting the main Imperial Command Center. We'll have to fly through the city's defense grid." Killian let out a low whistle. "Well, if they wanted to make this interesting, they've succeeded." Jeb's face was grim but determined. "All right, people, this is what we've trained for. Hacked, plot us the best approach vector you can find. Killian, reconfigure our weapons for bombing payloads. Let's show them what racers can really do." As they dove back into Centauri Prime's atmosphere, Hacked felt his heart racing. This was far beyond anything they'd attempted before. The city's skyline loomed ahead, a forest of towering structures bristling with defense turrets. "First target acquired," Hacked squeaked, his paws flying over his console. "Sending coordinates now. We'll need to thread the needle between those two towers at Sector 7. The Broken Promise screamed between the buildings, anti-aircraft fire lighting up the sky around them. Jeb's piloting was masterful, weaving through the barrage with the precision of a racer on the final stretch. "Steady. Steady," Killian muttered, his finger hovering over the trigger. "Now." A series of precision bombs dropped from the Broken Promise, finding their mark with devastating accuracy. The shield generator exploded in a brilliant flash, momentarily illuminating the chaos around them. "Direct hit," Hacked exclaimed, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. "One down, 3 to go." But their success had drawn attention. Imperial fighters swarmed towards them, filling the air with energy bolts. "Evasive action," Jeb shouted, sending the ship into a series of gut-wrenching maneuvers. Hacked clung to his station, his mind racing to calculate their next move. "Captain, if we dive through that construction zone, we might lose them." The Broken Promise plunged downward, weaving through half-finished buildings and construction equipment. Hack's heart was in his throat as they narrowly avoided collision after collision. As they emerged from the construction zone, their next target came into view. "Second shield generator dead ahead," Hack reported. Once again, Killian's aim was true. The generator went up in flames, further weakening the Imperial Command Center's defenses. As they banked hard for their next run, Jeb's voice was filled with fierce pride. "Great work, everyone. 2 down, 2 to go. Let's finish this." Hacked felt a surge of determination as he calculated their approach to the third target. They were racing against time, against the Empire's defenses, and against their own limits. But with each successful strike, They were proving that the spirit of racing could be turned into a formidable weapon of war. As the broken promise screamed towards its third target, HFY could feel the mounting pressure. The Imperial defenses were adapting, becoming more aggressive and coordinated with each passing minute. Incoming, Killian's gruff voice cut through the tension. We've got a whole squadron of Wasp-class interceptors on our 6. Jeb's hands danced across the controls, sending the ship into a series of evasive maneuvers that would have been impossible in their old racing vessel. HFY, find us a way through. We need to lose these interceptors before we approach the next shield generator. HFY's eyes darted across his displays, his mind racing. There's a series of canyons to our starboard side, Captain. If we can make it through, their larger ships won't be able to follow. Without hesitation, Jeb banked hard, diving into the narrow canyons. The pursuing Wasp interceptors followed, filling the air with energy bolts. HFY's heart pounded as they wove through the twisting ravines, jagged rock faces blurring past on either side. "This is insane," Killian shouted, firing back at their pursuers whenever he got a clear shot. "We're going to be paced on these canyon walls." But Jeb's piloting was flawless, his years of racing experience shining through as he navigated the treacherous terrain. One by one, the pursuing interceptors fell behind or met fiery ends against the canyon walls. As they emerged from the canyons, their third target came into view. Shield generator spotted HFY called out. But they've increased their defenses. It's going to be a hot approach. The air around them filled with flak as they made their run. HFY could hear the ping of shrapnel against their hull, each impact making him wince. "Steady, steady," Killian muttered, lining up his shot. Now. The bombs found their mark, obliterating the third shield generator in a spectacular explosion. But as they banked away, a lucky shot from a ground-based turret caught them squarely in the port engine. Alarms blared across the bridge as the ship lurched sickeningly. "We've lost power to the port engine," HFY squeaked, his paws flying over his console in an attempt to reroute systems. Jeb's face was a mask of concentration as he fought to keep the ship steady. "Damage report." "Hull integrity at 72% and falling," Killian growled. "We've got multiple breaches in the lower decks. Weapon systems are still online, but barely." HFY's whiskers drooped as he took in the dire situation. They still had one more target to hit, but their ship was falling apart around them. The pressure was mounting, and for the first time since they'd started this campaign, HFY felt a flicker of doubt. But when he looked at Jeb, he saw nothing but steely determination in his captain's eyes. "We're not out of this fight yet," Jeb declared, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "Plot a course for the final shield generator, HFY. We've got a job to finish." As HFY input the coordinates, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. They might be battered and bruised, but they were still in the race. And if there was one thing the crew of the Broken Promise knew how to do, it was how to cross the finish line against all odds. The Broken Promise limped towards its final target, trailing smoke and debris. HFY's paws flew over his console, desperately trying to reroute power and maintain their flight systems. The loss of the port engine had thrown off their balance, making every maneuver a struggle. "Final shield generator in sight," HFY reported, his voice tight with tension. "But our approach vector is compromised. We're coming in too hot." Jeb's face was a mask of concentration as he wrestled with the controls. "We've only got one shot at this. Killian, prep the last of our payload. We'll have to make this count." As they dove towards the shield generator, the Imperial defenses unleashed everything they had. The sky lit up with a storm of energy bolts and flak, turning their approach into a deadly gauntlet. "Incoming missile," Killian shouted. "Brace for impact." The ship rocked violently as the missile detonated just off their starboard bow. Alarms blared across every console, and HFY felt his heart sink as he saw the damage readouts. "Critical hit to our main power core," HFY squeaked, his fur standing on end. "We're losing systems across the board." Jeb's voice was strained but determined. "Stay on target. We're almost there." With the last of their maneuvering power, Jeb lined up their approach. The shield generator loomed large in their view screen, surrounded by a haze of weapons fire. "Now," Killian, Jeb ordered. Killian unleashed their final payload, the bomb streaking towards the target. For a heart-stopping moment, Hack thought they might miss. But then, the shield generator erupted in a massive fireball, the explosion momentarily drowning out the chaos around them. Direct hit, Hack cried out, a surge of elation cutting through his fear. All 4 shield generators are down. But their victory was short-lived. With their main power core critically damaged, the Broken Promise was rapidly losing altitude. "We're going down," Jeb shouted. "Hacked, find us somewhere to land." "Anywhere." Hack's paws danced across his console, his mind racing. "There's an open field behind our lines about 2 clicks south. It's our best shot." "Then that's where we're going," Jeb said grimly. "Everyone, brace for emergency landing." As the ground rushed up to meet them, Hack closed his eyes, his paws gripping his console tightly. They had completed their mission, struck a crucial blow against the Empire. But now, as their ship plummeted towards Centauri Prime's surface, he wondered if they'd live to see the fruits of their victory. The Broken Promise, battered and burning, screamed towards the ground. The ground rushed up to meet them as Jeb fought to keep the Broken Promise level. Alarms blared throughout the ship, but Jeb's voice cut through the chaos with crystal clarity. "Brace for impact. Hacked, give me real-time terrain data. Killian, dump any remaining ordnance. We need to lighten our load." Hack's paws flew over his console, feeding Jeb a constant stream of data about the approaching field. "Uneven terrain at our 2 o'clock, Captain. But there's a relatively flat stretch directly ahead." The ship shuddered as Killian jettisoned their remaining weapons. "Ordnance away. We're as light as we're going to get." As they entered the final approach, Jeb's piloting skills shone through. Despite the damaged engine and failing systems, he managed to level out the Broken Promise, aiming for the stretch of flat land Hacked had identified. "Here we go," Jeb shouted. "Everyone hold on." The impact was jarring but far less catastrophic than Hacked had feared. The Broken Promise skidded across the field, throwing up a cloud of dirt and debris. Hacked felt his teeth rattle as they bounced and slid, but Jeb's expert touch kept them from flipping or breaking apart. After what seemed like an eternity, they finally ground to a halt. For a moment, there was only silence, broken by the hiss of cooling metal and the distant sound of battle. "Status report," Jeb called out, his voice hoarse but steady. Hacked shook himself, quickly checking his systems. "Navigation is offline, but by some miracle, our core systems are still functional. Hull integrity is holding at 43%. Killian chimed in, sounding almost impressed. "Weapons are shot, but life support is stable. Gotta hand it to you, Cap. That was one hell of a landing." Jeb allowed himself a small smile. "We're not racers for nothing. Everyone okay?" "Oh," a chorus of affirmatives rang out across the bridge. As the adrenaline began to fade, Hacked realized the true extent of what they'd accomplished. They had not only completed their mission, but had also survived a crash landing that should have been fatal. Captain Hacked said, his whiskers twitching with a mixture of relief and pride, "I'm picking up friendly signals approaching our position. Looks like Julius 9 forces have secured this area." Jeb nodded, already moving towards the exit hatch. "Good. Let's get out there and assess the damage. With any luck, we might just get the old girl flying again." As they emerged from the Broken Promise, Hacked was struck by the sight of their ship. It was battered, scorched, and scarred, but largely intact. Jeb's perfect crash landing had saved not just their lives, but potentially their ship as well. The sound of approaching vehicles drew their attention. Friendly forces were on their way, and with them, the promise of repairs and a return to the battle. As Hacked looked back at the Broken Promise, he felt a surge of affection for the resilient ship. They had been through so much together, and somehow, against all odds, they were still in one piece. The rumble of approaching vehicles grew louder as Hacked and the crew stood beside their battered ship. Within minutes, a convoy of Julius 9 dropships touched down nearby, kicking up clouds of dust. Teams of engineers and medics poured out, rushing towards the Broken Promise. Hacked watched in amazement as they swarmed over the ship, setting up portable repair stations and diagnostic equipment with practiced efficiency. A familiar face emerged from one of the dropships. It was Admiral Decker himself. He strode purposefully towards Jeb, his face a mixture of concern and admiration. "Captain Sheets," Decker called out as he approached. "When we lost contact with your ship, I feared the worst. But I should have known better than to underestimate you and your crew." Jeb straightened, offering a crisp salute. "Thank you, sir. We completed our mission, but it was a close call." Decker nodded, his eyes scanning the damaged broken Promise. "So I see. But you've done more than complete a mission, Captain. Your team's actions have turned the tide of this battle. With those shield generators down, our main force is breaking through as we speak." Act felt a surge of pride at the Admiral's words. Their sacrifices, their near-death experience, it had all been worth it. Now Decker continued, gesturing to the repair crews, "Let's see about getting your ship back in the fight. As I've said before, we need every ship and every crew if we're going to win this war." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Hack found himself working alongside Julius 9 engineers, his intimate knowledge of the broken Promises systems proving invaluable in the repair efforts. As he worked, Hack overheard snippets of conversation about the ongoing battle. The fall of the shield generators had indeed been a turning point. Julius 9 forces were pushing deeper into Centauri Prime's defenses, and victory seemed within reach. By the time the sun began to set, the broken Promise was starting to look more like her old self. Critical systems had been repaired or replaced, and the hull damage was well on its way to being fully patched. Admiral Decker approached once more, this time addressing the entire crew. "Your ship will be fully operational by morning. I want you all to get some rest. Tomorrow, we push for the final victory." As the repair crews continued their work through the night, Hack found a quiet spot to sit and reflect. He looked up at the stars, barely visible through the haze of battle that still lingered in Centauri Prime's atmosphere. They had come so far from those first desperate races. Now, they were key players in a war that was reshaping the galaxy. And tomorrow they would fly again, pushing towards a victory that once seemed impossible. Hack felt a mix of excitement and apprehension as he thought about the challenges that still lay ahead. But he also felt something else, a deep sense of belonging. Here, alongside his crewmates and the brave forces of Julius 9, he had found his true calling. As he drifted off to sleep, lulled by the sounds of repair work on the broken Promise, Hack knew that whatever the next day might bring, they would face it together. The race for the fate of the galaxy continued, and the crew of the broken Promise was more determined than ever to cross that finish line. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.